At night, it is as thick as ink that cannot be transformed. The wind in the ruins smelled bloody, which made Lin Zhiqing's face hurt. She squatted behind a pile of walls and walls, holding a short knife in her hand, and didn't even dare to breathe too hard. The family's overturned picture is still played back in the brain, the fire is shining through the sky, the screams of the people, and the cold eyes of the man. Zheng Xiong. She bit her teeth tightly, and hatred was irritating in her heart like a poisonous snake. I can't run away, little girl. A low voice broke the silence. Tang Long, Zheng Xiong's dog-legged, was wearing black armor and dragging a giant axe to approach him step by step. There was a mocking smile on his face, like a cat teasing a mouse under his claws. Steal the whereabouts of the slab you know, or maybe I can make you die happily. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, her palms were already soaked in sweat. She knew she was not a rival. After the family was destroyed, she was just an ordinary person with no power to reduce the power of chicken, and she almost lost her energy to escape. But she was unwilling to give up. Even if she died at the hands of this guy, she had no revenge. How could she be willing to do so? What's the use of hiding? I'm limited in patience. Tang Long roared and the giant axe slammed into the place where she was hiding. The stone shattered and the soil was flying. Lin Zhiqing flipped and hit hard, but her arm was broken by gravel, and the blood was instantly pulled out. There is a lot of squeezing. Tang Long licked his lips, and there was a flash of light in his eyes. But the game ends here. He raised his giant axe and rushed towards him. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly echoed in her brain. Do you want to survive? Do you want to take revenge? Lin Zhiqing was stunned and looked around, but she didn't see anything. The sound seemed to crawl out of the ground, low and intriguing. I can give you strength and crush all enemies. As long as you wish, make a contract with me. Who is talking? Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and asked in a low voice, her heart beat as fast as if it was about to explode. I am a devil, a messenger from the deep purity. The voice continued, carrying an undeniable sense of pressure. Your hatred attracted me. I signed a contract and I will reap the power of your shadow, making you the blade of revenge. The price is that your soul will belong to me. Spirit? Lin Zhiqing's brain was in a state of turmoil, but Tang Long in front of her was approaching, her giant axe raised high, and the shadow of death was covered. She didn't have time to hesitate, bit her lip and pointed her head hard. Okay. I'll promise you. Give me strength, I want to take revenge. In an instant, a cold breath swelled from her body, as if countless hands were tearing her flesh and blood. The pain almost screamed, but what followed was an unprecedented sense of power. Her visual line became unusually clear, and the darkness around her seemed to be her ally, and the shadow twisted under her feet, as if she had lived. The contract was established. The voice was filled with satisfaction. Now, go and kill. Tang Long's axe had already slashed, but Lin Zhiqing's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared from the spot like a black smoke. The axe smashed into the air and the ground was slashed deep. He was stunned for a moment and said, Little girl, what are you playing with? The next second, a black shadow emerged from behind him, and Lin Zhiqing's short knife stabbed him directly behind him. Tang Long reacted very quickly, and he hid from his side, and the tip of the knife only broke his shoulder, and blood was pouring out. It's a bit meaningful. Tang Long grinned, and a warring moment ignited in his eyes. But with that skill, can you dare to fight with me? Lin Zhiqing didn't reply. She felt that the power in her body was boiling. The darkness was like her second-level skin. Every time she moved, she could teleport several meters with the help of a shadow. She was no longer the weak person who could only escape, and this force made her heart beat faster and even a little bit scared. Come again. She sniffed softly and took the initiative to rush up. Tang Long snorted coldly, his giant axe swept, bringing a wave of air. But Lin Zhiqing's body was as flexible as a ghost, and her shadow jumped around her. She could dodge and attack again and again every time, and then she used her backhand to strike him with a knife. After a few rounds, Tang Long had a few blood marks on his body, and his face also sank. Little man, where does this power come from? He just like a dog, but now he is very strong. Hard? That's the beginning. Lin Zhiqing sneered, with a fire of hatred burning in her eyes. She suddenly stopped and held a short knife in both hands. Darkness gathered around her, and a layer of black air covered the blade, as if it could swallow light. Go to die. She suddenly rushed out, her figure so fast that it was almost impossible to see clearly. She only heard a puff sound, and the short knife stabbed directly into Tang Long's shoulder and blood sprayed out. Tang Long hummed in pain, and his giant axe slammed his hand on the ground. He covered his wound, his face full of disbelief. How could you? Because me. Lin Zhiqing pulled out the short knife and blood dripped on the ground. Her eyes were as cold as ice. Hurry you. This is just interest. Tell Zhengxiong that one day, I will kill him by hand. Tang Long gritted his teeth and stared at her fiercely. Little girl, don't be too proud. You are so lucky today, I will kill you next time. He lifted up his giant axe, stumbled back and took a few steps, turning around and disappearing into the darkness. Lin Zhiqing didn't chase her, and the power in her body retreated like a tide. She almost knelt on the ground with both legs. The battle just now almost wiped out her strength, and her chest felt as if it was burned by fire. But looking at Tang Long's escaped back, a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. So, I can be stronger, too. She said in a low voice, and her hand holding the short knife trembled slightly, not because of fear, but because of anxiety. This kind of power, which can make enemies feel scared, can be easily devastated. Don't be too early to be excited. The devil's voice burst into her brain again, with a mockery. This is just the beginning. If you want to take revenge, you will not be able to resist this power. Have you ever heard of the slab? That is the key to powerlessness and your only hope for revenge. Prophecy stone slab. Lin Zhiqing browed and had some vague memories flashed in her brain. Before the family was overthrown, my father seemed to mention this thing, saying it was a secret about the fate of the world. But she was still young and didn't care at all. Broken stones scattered all over the dark world, the devil continued, every block contains the power of taboo. Find them, fuse them, and you can uncover the real reason why the kingdom destroys your family, and even, change your fate. Lin Zhiqing was shocked and changed her fate. These words were like a fire, igniting the deepest desire in her heart. If everything can be changed, if the family can live, I'll find them. She gritted her teeth, her eyes as if it were steel. No matter how difficult it is, I will make Zhengxiong pay for the price. Very good. The demon smiled, then move on. The first stone slab line is in the Black Swamp Forest in the north. But remember, the greater the power, the greater the price. Don't forget that you are my pawn now. Lin Zhiqing didn't reply, but just stood up silently, wiped off the blood on her face, and glanced at the north. In the darkness, the voices were heard, as if they were whispering some secret. She knew that the road to revenge had just begun, and there were no enemies and no dangers ahead. But she is not afraid. Because from this moment on, she was no longer the waste that could only cry and escape. She is Lin Zhiqing, the revenge who signed with the devil. She walked towards the Black Swamp Forest, and her figure gradually melted into the night. Far away, the roar of the wild beasts was about to indicate that a greater storm was coming. Lin Zhiqing walked on the muddy path leading to the Black Swamp Forest. The soil under her feet was moist and the air was filled with a rotten smell. Her short knife was hanging between her waist. Although she was still carrying the injuries left by fighting Tang Long yesterday, the power of the shadow in her body made her feel not too tired. The devil's voice puppet would resonate in her brain, like a slander monitor, reminding her of the contracted price from time to time. But she was not in a good mood. The only thing that could help her walk on was the revenge. Zhiqing. Wait for me. A familiar voice came from behind. Lin Zhiqing looked back and saw Chen Meiqi running over panting, holding a broken notebook in her hand. She was wearing a plain gray robe, her hair was tiled into horses, and her face was covered with mud, and she looked like a wolf was so cruel. Why are you here? Lin Zhiqing was browsing, with a little impatient expression in her voice. Didn't I let you stay in the village and wait for news? This place is too dangerous. Chen Meiqi rolled her eyes, patted her chest and gasped, saying, Danger? Please, can I rest assured that you came to this ghost place to find some pronounced stone slab? Besides, I am a genius in the interpretation of runes. Without me, you can't understand what you wrote on it even if you took the stone slab. Lin Zhiqing wanted to rebel, but it made sense to think about it. She didn't know what the stone slab was like, let alone the explanation. So she curled her lips and said with a silence, From you, don't blame me for not reminding me if something happens. Don't worry, I'm very hard-earned. Chen Meiqi grinned and took out a broken map from her pocket. I looked through the notes left by my father last night and found some records about the Black Swamp Forest. This place used to be an ancient fortress, and there were curses traps around it, so ordinary people couldn't come out if they went in. However, a small path was marked on the map, so most of the dangers should be able to escape. Lin Zhiqing took the map and took a look. The picture was very messy, and the lines were all over the east and west. She could barely see a rough idea. She pointed, Okay, just go as you said. But I'll say it first. When you encounter danger, don't show off, listen to me. I know, team leader. Chen Meiqi greeted the gift with a slight gaze. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. The Black Marsh Forest is even more distant than they thought. Not long after I stepped in, the sun was seriously steeped by the wind-impermeable tree crown, and the surroundings were as dark as evening. The branches twisted into various strange shapes, like monsters dancing with claws. They stepped on soft things under their feet and made a sound of gull sound, which sounded like flesh throat. Chen Meiqi walked along and muttered in a low voice, This place is really not something that people can do, I feel like a ghost will pop up at any time. Don't scare yourself. Lin Zhiqing snorted coldly, her hand pressed on the short knife, and her eyes were vigilantly swept around. The power of shadow in her body made her senses much more sensitive than before, and no wind could escape her attention. After about half an hour, the two of them came to an open space. A broken stone platform stands in the middle of the open space, full of runes that cannot be understood. In the middle of the platform is a piece of black stone slab that is the size of a palm, emitting a faint blue light. Lin Zhiqing's heart was thrilled, and she felt that this was what she was looking for. It's a fragment of stone slab. Chen Meiqi shouted excitedly, and went over to think about it in detail, but Lin Zhiqing grabbed her and said in a low voice, Don't be anxious, I always feel that I don't want to fight. As the voice fell, the trees around the open space suddenly rustled and several black shadows emerged. The one with the head was Tang Long. The wound on his shoulder was not enough. He was wrapped in a rough belt, and his face was so deep that it could drip. He followed several men in black, holding weapons and killing Qi Ren. Oh, little girl, my life is so great. Tang Long grinned, dragging the familiar giant axe, staring at Lin Zhiqing, I let you run away last time, but this time it's not that good. My boss has given the order of death, and I must take you back with the stone slab. Lin Zhiqing bit her teeth tightly, and the power of the shadow inside her body began to move. She stared at Tang Long coldly, Want to take me back? Ask the knife in my hand first if you answer it. Humph, stubborn. Tang Long snatched his hands, and the subordinates behind him immediately scattered and surrounded the two-person group. He dragged the giant axe forward for a few steps, his lingering mockery, Just like you and this young follower, what kind of waves can you make? Just surrender, and I can still keep you all. Zhiqing, what should I do? Chen Meiqi asked in a low voice, with a little trembling sound in her voice, and her hands had already grasped the notebook, as if she wanted to find some way to save her life. Don't panic, listen to my arrangements. Lin Zhiqing whispered in a low voice and said quickly, You find a chance to get the stone slabs, I'll hold them back. Remember, run away if you get the hand, don't worry about me. No. It's too dangerous. Chen Meiqi was so anxious that she wanted to rebel, but Lin Zhiqing glared at her fiercely and blocked her words. If you want to say nothing, we will all die. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and then suddenly rushed out, and her figure turned into a black shadow, snatching Tang Long. Her short sword wrapped in the power of the shadow and drew a black light, pointing directly to Tang Long's chest. Looking for death. Tang Long sneered, and slapped the giant axe and smashed it hard in her direction. The swords and axes collided, making a harsh metal sound. Lin Zhiqing was shocked and took a few steps back, her arms numb, but she did not retreat. She gritted her teeth and pushed her back again, dragging Tang Long's attention. Taking advantage of this empty file, Chen Meiqi gritted her teeth and ran towards the stone platform with her waist. Tang Long's subordinates discovered her actions, and the two immediately chased after her, and their mouths were sneered. Little girl, stop. Chen Meiqi's heart beats like a drum, but she didn't stop. She ran and tore off a page from the notebook, quickly drew a few runes, and then suddenly dropped it on the ground. As soon as the rune paper landed, a white light suddenly burst out from the ground, and the two chasing people were blown away, covered in blood, and fell to the ground wailingly. Fuck beautifully. Lin Zhiqing glanced at this scene and couldn't help but shout, but the next second, Tang Long's giant axe rushed over and almost hit her on the shoulder. She hid from one side, and the shadow jumped under her feet, reluctantly avoiding the fatal blow. Distraction is not a good habit. Tang Long roared, his attack getting stronger and stronger, and each strike was about to split her into 2.5. Lin Zhiqing could only grit her teeth and squeeze. Although the power of the shadow in her body was strong, her physical strength was limited. After a few rounds, she was already out of breath. On the other side, Chen Meiqi finally rushed to the stone platform, and picked up the black stone fragments with her hands trembling. The fragments were filled with dense runes, and they were filled with strange breath. She couldn't come and looked at it carefully, quickly stuffed it into the ground, turning around and wanted to run. But at this moment, a circle of red light suddenly lit up around the stone platform, and the ground began to vibrate violently. Chen Meiqi's foot slipped down and almost fell down. A low buzzing bird rose up around her ears, as if something had been woken up. Maggie, go quickly. Lin Zhiqing roared and took advantage of the moment when Tang Long was distracted and slashed at his calf. Chen Meiqi climbed back to Lin Zhiqing's body with her hair, her face as white as paper. Zhiqing, this place is not right. Stone slabs seem to have some contact with them. Before the words were finished, the trees around the open space suddenly live over, and the branches rushed towards the two people like touches. Several gaps broke open on the ground, and black smoke appeared. There were almost no sight of the eyes of two apes. Tang Long and his men were also shocked by this sudden change, and they kept back and sniffing in their mouths. What kind of ghost thing is this? Spell the trap. Chen Meiqi gritted her teeth and quickly flipped the notebook. My father's record mentioned that this ancient forum will protect treasures with spells. Once touched, the trap will start and drag everyone in. How to break it? Lin Zhiqing slashed the branches of the tree with a knife and asked urgently. The black fog became increasingly dense, the visual line was almost completely obscured, and the air was filled with a suffocating pressure. You have to find the core rune and destroy it. Chen Meiqi bit her lip and quickly painted something on the notebook with her fingers. Give me some time, I can find it. Time? I don't have time to give you. Lin Zhiqing replied, but gritted her teeth and rushed to Chen Meiqi, carrying the attack of the branches and black fog to give her space. Her short sword was so dense that it was not clear. The power of shadow formed a barrier around her, but those branches seemed to be killed endlessly, cutting 1 and 3 more, and a few blood marks were quickly drawn out of her body. Tang Long also reacted at this time and shouted, "Don't worry about these monsters, catch those 2 little men first." He rushed over with his subordinates, and the giant axe once again attacked Lin Zhiqing, his eyes full of killing. Chong! Lin Zhiqing roared angrily, and the shadow power in her body suddenly burst out. Her figure flashed and directly teleported to Tang Long, and a short knife stabbed him hard in the chest. Tang Long didn't expect that she would still have such a move, so he reluctantly used the handle of the axe to hold it, but he was still shocked and took a few steps back, and a piece of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Finished. Just then, Chen Meiqi shouted and pointed to a stone slab under the stone platform. There is the core rune there. Smash it and the trap will stop. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything and pulled Chen Meiqi toward Shirtai. Tang Long wanted to do it, but with a fake move, the shadow clone appeared and forced his attack. The two of them rushed to the stone platform, and Lin Zhiqing slashed it hard with a knife. The sound of the stone slab shattered, and the red light disappeared in an instant. The branches and black fog seemed to have been drained and quickly shrank back to the ground. Who? Chen Meiqi sat on the ground, gasping for breath, her face covered in sweat. Lin Zhiqing was not much better. She stood firmly on Shirtai, her body was covered in wounds, and her arms were dripping with blood. It's so bad. Tang Long looked at this scene far away, gritting his teeth and cutting, but when the curse trap was broken, his subordinates were also injured. They could only glare at the two of them fiercely and said, "You're leaving. I'll have to calculate this for you." After saying that, he quickly retreated with the man and disappeared deep in the forest. Run quite fast. Lin Zhiqing snorted coldly, wiped the blood from her face, and turned her head to look at Chen Meiqi. Are you okay? Also, it's fine. Chen Meiqi smiled reluctantly, took out the fragments of the stone slabs inside, and there was a little trembling in her voice. But, Zhiqing, there's something wrong with this thing. What's the problem? Lin Zhiqing looked over and looked over. The blue light on the stone slab flickered and darker, and the runes seemed to be alive, flowing slowly, emitting a breath that made people feel cold and irritated. Chen Meiqi took a deep breath and said in a low voice, I just briefly explained a few runes, which mentioned the break of fate and the end of the world. And your family. What? Lin Zhiqing was shocked and suddenly grabbed Chen Meiqi's shoulder. Tell me clearly. What's the relationship with my family? I haven't fully understood it yet, but the rune mentioned a blood sacrifice, saying that in order to awaken a certain force, a specific blood sucker must be used as a sacrifice. Chen Meiqi's voice became lower and lower, and her eyes were filled with grievances. Zhiqing, your family was being defeated, may not be a simple revenge, but part of a larger plan. Lin Zhiqing stood there in a daze, her brain was blank. Blood sacrifice? A bigger plan? She always thought that Zheng Xiong just kept her full door for power, but now she heard the truth behind it was far more terrifying than she thought. Also, the rune finally mentioned the Lord of Deep Purity. Chen Meiqi swallowed, almost unable to hear the sound. I don't know what that is, but I feel it has something to do with your contract. Lin Zhiqing's heart skipped a beat, and a devil's low laughter came out in the sea of brain. Little girl, don't think too much. Stone slabs are just tools, and revenge is your goal. Others, wait until you have enough strength to explore. She clenched her teeth and didn't reply, but just stared at the fragments of the stone in her hand. The road to revenge seemed to be more complicated, but no matter what the truth was, she would not stop. Let's leave this ghost place first, she said softly, helping Chen Meiqi up and walking out of the forest. Behind him, the stone platforms deceased lying quietly in the darkness, as if he was telling some unsolved secret. Lin Zhiqing's eyes were more stable and colder than before. Lin Zhiqing and Chen Meiqi have been away from the Black Swamp Forest for 3 days, and they still have the smell of mud and scars on their bodies. The first piece predicted that the fragments of the stone slab were carefully put in a leather bag by Chen Meiqi. The two of them did not dare to rest any longer along the way, for fear that Tang Long would catch up with him again. According to the thread Chen Meiqi explained from the rune, the second stone slab may be hidden in the west of the Waste Bone Mountain, a place with a strange reputation, saying that it was once a trial site for ancient wizards, full of bones and resentment. Zhiqing, what secret do you think is hidden in this stone slab? Chen Meiqi chewed the dry rice and muttered, her face full of fatigue. I always think that this thing is not a good thing. The more we take, the more we are more dangerous. You have to take the danger. Lin Zhiqing replied coldly, staring at the shadow of the mountain far away, without a trace of hesitation in her language. If you don't find all the stone slabs, how can I know why Zhengxiong kept me over? Besides, the demon said that this is the only way to make me stronger. Chen Meiqi sighed and did not respond. She just lowered her head and continued to flip through the old notebook, trying to find more traces about the wilderness mountain in the picture. The two of them walked along a deserted path for most of the day, and finally arrived under the foot of the mountain in the evening. The mountain in front of me seemed to be bitten by something, and the rock pit was filled with a pungent smell of sulfur in the air. I could step on the broken bones in my feet, making a click sound, making people's skin numb. This place is even more swelling than the black swamp forest. Chen Meiqi shrank her neck and said in a short voice, "My father said that there is a Witcher Square in the wilderness mountain. Many ancient wizards failed to try to get into trouble here, and their grievances have not dispersed yet." Resentful? Lin Zhiqing raised her eyebrows and pressed her hand against the short knife on her waist. "If there is really a ghost, I'll cut one. Don't waste your time and look for the way." Chen Meiqi rolled her eyes, but she still took out the map and found a secret little girl leading to the mountainside according to the logs. The two of them just walked for a few steps, and the air suddenly became even colder, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, and they were talking in a whisper around their ears, as if someone was muttering in their ears, but they couldn't hear what they were saying. "Zhiqing, have you heard it?" Chen Meiqi's face turned pale and her voice was trembling. "Isn't this really a ghost, right?" "I heard it, don't panic." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, and the power of the shadow in her body began to move. The shadow twisted slightly under her feet, as if she was alert to something. She turned her head suddenly and yelled in the direction of a dead tree behind her, "Who is there? Come out." The voice fell, and a figure walked out from the dead tree. It was a woman in a long dark purple robe with black lace covering her face, only a pair of sharp eyes exposed, and a wooden stick carved with runes in her hand. Her steps were light, as if she was stepping on the air, and the sound of the surroundings disappeared instantly as she appeared, and the air returned to normal. "Who are you? Why are you entering the Wild Bone Mountain?" The woman's voice was low, with an indescribable sense of pressure, as if she could see through people's hearts. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, but just held the short knife tightly and looked at the other person with a vigilant look. Chen Meiqi opened her mouth carefully. We are just passing by and looking for something." "No, malicious. Looking for something?" The woman sneered, her eyes swept over the two, and finally stopped on Lin Zhiqing. "Little girl, you have the devil's breath. Tell me, what are you looking for?" Lin Zhiqing felt nervous, but she didn't expect that the other party could see her contract at a glance. She gritted her teeth and simply put on the sign, "We are looking for fragments of prophecy stone. Do you know what to do?" The woman was silent for a while, her eyes became deeper, as if she had seen something interesting. After a while, she opened her mouth. "My name is Yang Wanting, and she is one of the guardians of this mountain. I predicted the stone slab." "Oh, that's a thing for a burner. You took the first block and touched the curse of Black Swamp. Do you still dare to come to find the second block now? Aren't you afraid of death? How do you know about Black Maple?" Lin Zhiqing's eyebrows were stern, and her hand holding the knife became tighter. "I have the ability to know." Yang Wanting smiled lightly, with a little mockery in her language. "I also know that your enemy is approaching. Zhengxiong, the man, has begun to use the forbidden magic to collect stone slabs. He wants to merge all the fragments, awaken the Lord of Deep and control the entire dark world." Zhengxiong. Lin Zhiqing bit her teeth tightly, and a fire of hatred ignited in her eyes. "He pushed me to fill the door, just for the stone slab. Slate is just a tool." Yang Wanting slammed her head, her voice becoming low. "His real purpose is to open the door of deep penetration through the blood sacrifice and the power of the stone slab. The blood of your family is just one of the key points. So, he will not let you go." Lin Zhiqing was shocked and her brain flashed the two words, blood sacrifice, that Chen Meiqi said when she was interpreting the runes before. It turns out that all this is a slander from the beginning. She clenched her fists tightly, and her voice was as cold as ice. Then I need to find the stone slab, so I can't let him succeed. It has a bone. Yang Wanting pointed a little, and she was glimpsed in her eyes. The second stone slab is in the cave on the mountainside, but the place is protected by resentment. Ordinary people go in and die. I can help you, but there is a condition. If you really find all the stone slabs, you must answer me, and you can't make Xing Xiong's plan successful. The deal was completed. Lin Zhiqing didn't hesitate and clicked directly. She knew that now, one more ally would be more calculating, and why Yang Wanting looked unsimple and might be able to help her. Very good. Yang Wanting turned around and walked towards the mountainside. Follow me and don't lose the team. The resentment doesn't care who you are. The three of them were silent all the way, heading towards the mountainside along the little one. On the way, Yang Wanting briefly talked about trying caves, saying that it was a place used by ancient witches to test their descendants. Not only were there grudges, but there were also various traps. If you were not careful, you would be trapped and killed. Lin Zhiqing felt nervous when she heard it, but she did not show it on her face. She just silently adjusted the power of the shadow in her body and prepared to challenge the next challenge. By the time we reached the entrance of the cave, it was completely dark. The entrance of the cave looked like a big mouth, and it was pitch black inside. It occasionally roared lowly, like a wild animal or a human cry. Yang Wanting stopped and turned to the two. After going in, don't go around and hold me in a scrupulous way. Resentment likes to attack people with broken hearts. Remember, don't be influenced by them. Lin Zhiqing clicked a little and walked in first. The cave was so cold that it was covered with moss on the wall. It was often trampled on broken bones under the feet, and the air was filled with a rotten smell. Chen Meiqi followed closely, holding the notebook and chanting some spells of protection runes in a low voice, trying to disperse the surrounding atmosphere. Yang Wanting walked in front, and the wooden stick in her hand emitted a faint white light, illuminating a small area. Not long after I left, the air suddenly became colder, and the low voices on my ears rose again, this time as clear as if someone was talking in his ear. You can't escape. You will die, with us. Chen Meiqi's face turned pale, she paused for a moment, and her voice trembled. Zhiqing, I'm a little scared. Don't listen to them. Lin Zhiqing sniffed, grabbed her wrist. Walk carefully, don't think about anything else. Yang Wanting snorted coldly, and the wooden stick hit the ground lightly. A circle of white light spread out, and the low voice was instantly suppressed. She turned around and said, these resentments are part of the test, and they are specialized in challenging others' fears. The more they are afraid, the stronger they are. The tougher they can't do anything to you. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, forcing herself not to hear those sounds, staring at the front. But at this moment, a pair of red eyes suddenly lit up in the depths of the cave. A number of resentful spirits crawled out of the darkness, distorted in shape, like a monster that was torn apart and crushed, and rushed towards the three of them. Here! Yang Wanting shouted softly, and a wooden stick was slapped, and a light curtain was slapped in front of the three of them. The resentment hit the light curtain and made a harsh scream, but soon came up again, and cracks began to appear in the light curtain. Don't be stunned, act. Lin Zhiqing roared, and the power of the shadow in her body exploded in an instant, and the figure turned into a black smoke and rushed into the group of resentful spirits. Her short sword was covered with black air, and each knife could tear apart a resentment and turn into a black fog to dissipate. But the complaint seemed to be endless, and he went forward and rushed up, screaming, almost breaking his eardrums. Chen Meiqi gritted her teeth and quickly drew a few runes. When she fell on the ground, the runes burst out with white light, exploding a piece of resentment, and giving the three people a little breathing space. Yang Wanting focused on maintaining the light curtain, occasionally chanting the resentment of her staff and chanting a mantra in her mouth. It won't work. Lin Zhiqing gasped, with several scratches on her body, and blood was poured out. We must find the stone slab and cut the root of these ghost things. At the other side. Yang Wanting pointed to a stone platform deep in the cave, with a piece of stone fragments scattering with blue light on it, almost exactly the same as the first one. Pull it over, take it and run away. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, and her shadow jumped under her feet, killing a way out from the group of resentful spirits, rushing straight to the stone platform. The resentment seemed to be irritated, the screaming was even more harsh, and the speed was much faster, almost squeezing her. At this moment, Yang Wanting suddenly shouted loudly, and the wooden stick suddenly penetrated into the ground, and a strong white light burst out, shocking all the resentment for several meters. Quick! Yang Wanting gritted her teeth, her face turned pale, obviously this blow took a lot of her energy. Lin Zhiqing took the opportunity to hit the stone platform and grabbed the fragments of the stone slabs, and the ice slab was stinging. The blue light made her eyes hurt. Just as she was about to turn around, the cave suddenly shook violently, and several gaps broke open on the ground, and black fogs burst out from it, and the number of resentment increased suddenly. No, the second stage of the trial begins. Yang Wanting shouted, take the stone slab and run away, don't fight. The three of them rushed towards the entrance of the cave with all their might. Behind Lin Zhiqing's palace, the short sword danced tightly and forced the attack of most of the resentful spirits. Finally, the three of them stumbled out of the cave, and the night wind outside blew, as if they were returning to the people from the ground. Who survive? Chen Meiqi sat on the ground, gasping for breath, and holding the notebook tightly in her hand. Yang Wanting was not much better, and she stood firm with her wooden stick, her face as white as paper. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, but looked down at the second stone fragment in her hand, and she didn't feel much joy in her heart. Although the battle just won, she knew that this was just the beginning. Zheng Xiong's lord, the lord of deep purity, and the demon's contract. Each one is like a mountain, which makes her breathless. But she didn't have time to think about it anymore. A quick sound of footsteps came from far away, accompanied by a familiar growl. I found them. Don't let anyone go. Lin Zhiqing raised her head suddenly. On the far mountain road, Tang Long drove a team of elite troops over there. There were hundreds of people, one wearing black armor and heavy weapons, killing the airline. Tang Long's shoulder was covered with a slight smile on his face. Little man, let's see where you run this time. The boss said, I want both the stone slab and your life today. Tang Long. Lin Zhiqing bit her teeth tightly, and her eyes were filled with anger. She never forgot the humiliation she had when she first fought, nor did she forget the scene of the murder of this guy who brought people to death when the family was overthrown. Hate burned on her chest like fire, causing the power of shadows in her body to boil uncontrollably. Zhiqing, there are too many people, we can't beat him. Chen Meiqi was so anxious that she wanted to pull her away, but Lin Zhiqing shook her hand and said coldly, run? I won't run away today. I want this guy to know and mess with me off the scene. There's a thing. Tang Long grinned and signaled his hand to the team to encircle the three of them. Brothers, give it to me. Who cut off this girl's head and the boss will double the money. Hundreds of people rushed over at the same time, with swords, killing each other. Yang Wanting gritted her teeth and squeezed a light curtain, but she just spent too much power in the cave, and the light curtain shattered after only a few seconds. She said to Lin Zhiqing in a low voice, I can't help you too much, the rest depends on you. It's over. Lin Zhiqing shouted softly, her eyes as cold as a knife. She suddenly rushed out, and the power of the shadow exploded around her, and the figure turned into countless black smokes, shuttled between the enemy. Her short sword was like the dead sword of the god of death. Every blow took a life, and the blood was sprayed, and the cry came one after another. What? Tang Long's pupils shrank, and he didn't expect that Lin Zhiqing's strength was much stronger than last time. He roared angrily and dragged his giant axe to come, little man, I'll kill you. Come on. Lin Zhiqing sneered, and the shadow jumped under her feet, teleported to Tang Long in an instant, stabbing his chest with a short knife. Tang Long reacted very quickly, and his giant axe swept, barely holding on to the blow, but was still shocked and took a few steps back, and his arms were numb. That's all. Lin Zhiqing's eyes were filled with mockery. The power of the shadow inside her body seemed to be ignited by hatred, and her speed and power increased by one. Her figure flashed, and a few black lights were drawn from the short sword. Tang Long's body instantly had several deep bone-like wounds, and blood was flowing. It's so bad. Tang Long gritted his teeth and roared with an axe to fight back, but Lin Zhiqing looked like a ghost and didn't give him any chance to get it back. Every attack she had was terrifyingly precise. She took the lead with his breakthrough. After a few rounds, Tang Long was already panting and covered in scars on his body. The surrounding troops were also shocked by her killing, and the attacks were obviously slowing down. Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting took advantage of the opportunity to counterattack, and the runes and light curtain cooperated, dragging some people down. Lin Zhiqing glanced at the battleground and sneered on the corner of her mouth, "Tang Long, I'll take your life today." "Be a dream." Tang Long roared, and with the last force, the giant axe slammed Lin Zhiqing hard, bringing a wave of wind. Tang Long let out a roar of unwillingness, his body stiffened for a moment, and then he fell heavily, his eyes narrowed, full of unwillingness. Lin Zhiqing pulled out the short knife and blood dripped on the ground. She gasped and said in a low voice, "This is just the first step, Zheng Xiong, the next one is you." As soon as Tang Long died, the remaining troops were in a mess, and the military was completely useless, and they fled and scattered. Lin Zhiqing didn't chase her, but just looked at Tang Long's body coldly, and the hatred in her heart was finally released. She knew that this was just a small step on the road to revenge, but at least, she proved that she was no longer the waste that could only escape. "Zhiqing, you are too fierce." Chen Meiqi ran over, her face full of shock, and her voice was trembling. Yang Wanting also left, with a complicated look in her eyes. "Your power is stronger than I expected. But remember, the power of the shadow is a double-blade sword, and the more you use it, the greater the price." "I know." Lin Zhiqing wiped the blood from the knife and turned to look at the mountain far away, "But as long as I can take revenge, I will be willing to pay for any price." The night wind blew over and took away a smell of blood. The three of them stood under the foot of the mountain, and the darkness far away seemed like a purity without any side, hiding more unknown dangers. Lin Zhiqing's eyes were more certain than at any time. The road to revenge is still very long, but she has taken the most important step. The night was as thick as ink. Lin Zhiqing, Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting were lying outside a deserted mine south of Huanggu Mountain. The surrounding area was filled with broken iron racks and scattered mines, and there was a pungent smell of sulfur in the air. According to Yang Wanting's predicted information, Zheng Xiong's secret point is at the depth of this mine, and the third block predicted that the stone fragments were probably hidden here by him. The battle to kill Tang Long made Lin Zhiqing's confidence greatly, but she knew in her heart that things would never be simple in the face of Zheng Xiong, a real enemy. "The atmosphere here is too heavy." Chen Meiqi muttered in a low voice, holding the notebook tightly in her hand, looking around, looking a little uneasy. "I always think there is something wrong with it. Do we really have to be tough? Hardness is the only way." Lin Zhiqing replied coldly, pressing her hand on the short knife at her waist, and a fire of hatred burned in her eyes. "Tang Long is just a little bastard, and Zheng Xiong is the culprit. The stone slab is in his hand, and I must take it back, no matter how dangerous it is." Yang Wanting stood aside, covered in black on her face, and her voice was low. "My prediction shows that there is a powerful forbidden magical realm at the point, and ordinary people will die if they go in. Zheng Xiong may have known that you have taken 2 stone slabs, and maybe they have set up traps waiting for you. So what?" Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and sneered at the corner of her mouth. "He wants to play, so I will play with him to the end. If I don't get the stone slab back today, I won't call Lin Zhiqing." Chen Meiqi rolled her eyes and said with a hint, "Okay, the team leader has decided. But I will remind you first that I don't have much stock of runes in stock. When it comes to key points, don't expect me to blow up the whole scene. Don't waste your time, just follow me if you are ready. Lin Zhiqing ignored her complaints and turned to Yang Wanting. How can you get in when you lead the way? Yang Wanting clicked her head, and the wooden stick in her hand knocked lightly on the ground, and a faint white light spread under her feet, as if she was exploring something. She closed her eyes for a moment and said in a low voice, the weakest part of the boundary is on the east side of the mine. There is a hidden side that is not much guarded, but after entering, it depends on you. My prediction can only see blurry fragments, and I am not sure what the mask is inside. It's over. Lin Zhiqing pointed, and her figure flashed, turning into a black shadow and headed towards the east side first. Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting followed closely, and the three of them were like ghosts in the night, quietly passing through several patrol guards without a sound, and came to a broken iron door covered by vines. Lin Zhiqing pushed open the iron door lightly, and the door made a low, squeak sound, making people feel sore. Inside is a narrow mine, with a few dim oil lamps on the wall, which illuminates the way forward. The air was so wet, and the sound of dripping water echoed deep in the mine, as if someone was talking in a whisper. Be careful. Yang Wanting reminded in a low voice, and the wooden stick emitted a glimmer of light, and she looked around vigilantly. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, and the power of the shadow in her body had begun to move. The shadow was slightly distorted under her feet, ready to face the sudden situation at any time. The three of them walked along the mine for about a minute and finally came to a huge underground hole. A black stone sacrificial fortress stands in the middle of the hollow, filled with red runes that scatter a breath that makes people palpitations. There was a piece of stone slab as big as a palm at the top of the fort, and the blue light was faint, which was the third piece of stone slab. Around the sacrificial priests, more than 10 black robes, were surrounding them, chanting the mantra in a low voice, and a heavy smell of blood filled the air. Finished. Chen Meiqi was shocked, staring at the stone slab, wishing she could rush up immediately. But Lin Zhiqing grabbed her and said in a low voice, Don't worry, these witches are either good at slapping, they are just seeking death. She said it right. Yang Wanting browed, with a sense of anxiety in her voice. These witches are using taboo magic to strengthen the boundary. The red light around the stone slab is the mark of the blood sacrifice. If they are close to each other, they will be swallowed by the boundary. What should I do then? Is it hard to just watch? Chen Meiqi was so anxious that she stomped her feet, flipping through the notebook, trying to find out how to crack it. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and her brain moved quickly. If you can't force yourself, you can only be smart. She said to Yang Wanting in a low voice, Can you see the weaknesses of the boundary with your predictions? Or the rules of the actions of these witches? Yang Wanting closed her eyes for a moment, and sweated in her head. After a while, she said in a low voice, The weakness of the boundary is on the stone pillar behind the left side of the fortress. There are cracks in the runes there, which can tear a gap in a while. But the wizard will change positions every few minutes to strengthen the boundary. You don't have much time. It took a few minutes, it's over. Lin Zhiqing's eyes flashed with a ruthless look, and she turned her head to Chen Meiqi. You and Yang Wanting are looking for a chance to destroy the stone pillars. I'll lead these wizards and run away when I get the stone slab. Do you understand? Zhiqing, are you crazy? Tell them out. Why do you hit them alone? Chen Meiqi was so anxious that her face turned pale, but Lin Zhiqing snorted coldly, without giving her a chance to respond, Don't waste your words, do what I said. Otherwise, none of us would be able to get out. Chen Meiqi wanted to say something, but Yang Wanting grabbed her and said in a low voice, Believe her. She has the power of a devil, and it will be fine if she fights it hard. We have to seize the time. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything more, and her figure flashed and turned into a black shadow and rushed directly towards the sacrificial supreme. Her appearance instantly shocked the wizards. One of the wizards in the head suddenly raised their heads and shouted, There is an intruder. Grab her. More than 10 wizards turned around at the same time, with the black light flash in their hands, and the attacks of several taboo magics directly hit Lin Zhiqing. The sharp hissings in the air seemed to be roaring with countless resentful spirits. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, and the power of the shadow exploded around her. The shadow jumped and reluctantly avoided several attacks, but she was still hit by a black light and her skin seemed to be corrupted, which made her hummed. "That's all." She sneered strongly, wrapped in black air, and suddenly rushed into the group of wizards. With one sword, a wizard's spell-casting spell was cut off, and blood was sprayed. The wizard cried and fell to the ground, and the others immediately surrounded him, and the magic attack fell like a heavy rain. At the same time, Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting took the opportunity to sacrifice to the stone pillars behind the left side of the fort. Chen Meiqi quickly drew a few explosion runes, gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, "This thing is not small, but the runes are not stable. If they explode, we may even be hit. Do you know how to use it?" "I don't have to choose." Yang Wanting replied coldly, and a wooden stick was slapped, and a light curtain was slapped in front of the two people. "Hurry, I won't be able to hold it for long." Chen Meiqi pointed her head, her hands trembled and put the rune paper on the stone pillar, and she chanted the mantra in her mouth. The next second, a dazzling white light burst out from the rune, and the sound of the stone pillar cracked, and the red light from the boundary flashed in an instant, as if something had been torn open. "It's done!" Chen Meiqi shouted in surprise, but before she finished speaking, the ground suddenly shook violently, and the black air around the sacrificial supreme burst into flames, as if she was angry, and rushed towards the three of them. Yang Wanting's light curtain was instantly broken, and the two were shocked and took a few steps back, with blood spilling out of the corners of their mouths. "It's dead. There is also a counterattack mechanism in this boundary." Yang Wanting gritted her teeth, her face turned pale, and she obviously suffered uneven internal injuries. Lin Zhiqing was not much better. The attacks of more than 10 wizards made her almost breathless. Although the power of the shadow made her as fast as a ghost, the forbidden magic was too corrupt, and every time she avoided, she consumed her energy very much. There were already a few scars on his body, and blood dripped down his arms, dyeing the ground. "Catch her! Don't let her get close to the fort!" The wizard who was headed roared, and a stronger black light condensed in his hand, squeezing Lin Zhiqing's face. The power of this blow was far beyond the reach, and the air was torn apart, making a sharp bird. Lin Zhiqing bit her teeth tightly, and the shadow jumped under her feet, barely teleporting and avoiding, but the black light still wiped her waist, and her skin seemed to be burned, which made her almost kneel down. She gasped, and an unyielding fire burned in her eyes. "Want to kill me? It's not that easy." At this moment, a low and familiar voice came from the depths of the fortress, carrying endless mockery. "Little girl, she's so cute. Do you dare to rush to my floor? Do you really think you can make a big splash?" Lin Zhiqing was shocked and raised her head suddenly, only to see a figure walking out of the darkness behind the fortress. It was a man wearing a long blood robe with scars on his face, and his eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake. It was Zheng Xiong, the culprit of her family. He held a bone staff in his hand, and a beaded with a red gem on his head, emitting a heavy forbidden magical breath. "Zheng Xiong!" Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and lit up, hatred burning on her chest like fire, and the power of the shadow inside her body was boiling uncontrollably, almost breaking her will. "Yeah, do you recognize me?" Zheng Xiong grinned, his eyes full of confusion. "I thought you had forgotten a long time ago. After all, the wastes in your house were not strong enough, so I took it away." "You are looking for death." Lin Zhiqing roared angrily, and her figure turned into a black smoke, snatching Zheng Xiong. Her short sword wrapped in unprecedented black air, as if it could swallow all light, aiming directly at Zheng Xiong's throat. "A little trick to carve a slut." Zheng Xiong snorted coldly, his bone staff slapped lightly, and a blood-red magic barrier hit him in front of him. Lin Zhiqing's short knife stabbed the barrier hard, making a harsh friction sound, leaving no cracks behind. She was shocked and took a few steps back, her mouth was numb and her blood was pouring on. "With this ability, can you dare to challenge me?" Zheng Xiong laughed, with a finger of his bone staff, and several gaps suddenly cracked on the ground, and the black air turned into countless touching hands and rushed towards Lin Zhiqing and the other two. At the same time, the wizards around the sacrificial supreme also increased their attacks, and the magic hit them like a heavy rain, almost forcing the three of them into the end. Zhiqing, I can't hold it anymore. Chen Meiqi shouted. The rune paper in her hand had been used up and could only hide behind Yang Wanting's light curtain, but the light curtain was also slammed under the attack of her touch. Yang Wanting gritted her teeth, covered in cold sweat, and said in a low voice, "My strength is almost exhausted, I must find a way to break through." Lin Zhiqing was panting, her body was covered in scars, and her physical strength was almost extremely limited. Zheng Xiong's strength was far beyond her imagination, and this pressure made her almost suffocate. In the sea of brain, the devil's voice suddenly rose, with a hint of intimacy. "Little girl, do you want to survive? Be careful and let me help you. You can feel that the power of shadow is far away. Close your mouth." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and roared. She knew that the devil's help was never free, but now, she had no choice. Zheng Xiong's touch attack became more and more fierce, and Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting were almost forced to the corner, and there was no chance to escape. "What, can't I stop holding it?" Zheng Xiong sneered, his bone staff slammed again, and a bloody light ray rushed towards Lin Zhiqing. "Then go and die, so as not to worry about it." Between the line of life and death, Yang Wanting suddenly shouted, "Zhiqing, right front." My prediction saw the way out. When I rushed over, there was a gap in the boundary. Lin Zhiqing suddenly turned around, and there was indeed a weaker red light in front of her right, like a broken corner of the boundary. She bit her teeth tightly, and the power of the shadow inside her body was like a ignited explosive medicine, instantly exploding. She growled, "Roll open." The shadow exploded around her, turning into countless spikes, tearing the strangled touch into pieces. Her figure flashed, so fast that it was almost impossible to see clearly, and she directly hit the gap in front of her right. Zheng Xiong's pupils shrank and he roared, "Stop her." The wizard's magic attack fell like a heavy rain, but Lin Zhiqing seemed to be completely unconscious of life and death. She carried several attacks, and blood overflowed from the corner of her mouth, but it still hit the gap. Her short sword pierced into the zombie world, and the power of the shadow stormed out like a flood. A sound of brittleness came out of the zombie world, and a crack was torn apart. "Let's go!" She shouted, turned around and rushed towards Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting, dragging the two of them out of the crack. Zheng Xiong's touch attack came, but the boundary power outside the cleft was obviously weakened. The three of them reluctantly avoided a fatal blow and stumbled towards the sacrificial supreme. "Stone slab!" Chen Meiqi shouted, pointing to the fragments at the top of the fort. Lin Zhiqing didn't say anything, her figure turned into black smoke, teleported directly to the top of the sacrificial fort, and grabbed the fragments of the stone slabs. The blue light was dazzling, and she bought the ice cream, but she didn't get as excited as she was. Zheng Xiong's roar sounded, "Little man, leave the stone slab." As soon as the bone staff was blown, a blood-red beam of light rushed Lin Zhiqing, so powerful that it could almost tear the space. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, and the power of the shadow in her body burst again. The shadow formed a barrier around her, forcibly slamming the light column, but she was shocked and fell heavily to the ground, with blood flowing from the corners of her mouth. "Zhiqing!" Chen Meiqi shouted anxiously, trying to come and help, but Yang Wanting pulled her, "Don't go, I can't help her. We have to run first." "Want to run? No door." Zheng Xiong sneered, pointed his bone staff, and the ground cracked again, and countless black touching hands rushed out, surrounding the three-person group. Lin Zhiqing stood up with a stern, her hands shaking tightly, and her physical strength was almost exhausted, and she could stand still. "Give up, little girl." Zheng Xiong approached quickly, his eyes full of murderous intentions. "If you hand over the stone slab, I can still make you die happily. Otherwise, I will make you live and die." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, and an unyielding fire burned in her eyes. In the sea of brain, the devil's voice sounded again, with a temptation, "Let me help you. Otherwise, you and your friends will die today." She felt a thrust in her heart for a moment, and finally gritted her teeth and growled, "Okay. Help me. I want to survive, I want to take revenge." In an instant, a cold breath burst out from her body, as if the door of the ground was opened. Her eyes turned pure black, and the shadow twisted around her, turning into countless sharp blades, heading towards Zhengxiong and the wizard. Her speed and strength surged several times, and every time the short sword swung, it brought a black wind, tearing the touch around her apart. What? Zhengxiong's pupils shrank, and he didn't expect Lin Zhiqing to have such a move. His bone staff was shattered, and the blood-red barrier was slapped in front of him, but the barrier continued to crack under Lin Zhiqing's attack. The wizard was torn to pieces by her shadow blade, and his screams came one after another. "Roll!" Lin Zhiqing growled, and her figure turned into a black light, swaying Zhengxiong. Her short knife stabbed him hard in the chest. Zhengxiong reluctantly held it with his bone staff, but he was still shocked and took a few steps back, and a silk of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. "It's so bad." Zhengxiong gritted his teeth, and a trace of jealousy flashed in his eyes. "Little man, you're going to leave today. I'll do this for you." After saying that, his figure flashed, turned into a blood light and disappeared deep into the mine, and the wizards fled and scattered. Lin Zhiqing didn't chase after her, and the power of the shadow inside her body quickly retreated. She slit her legs and almost knelt on the ground. Although her power was strong, her price was also huge. She felt as if she had been hollowed out and her breathing hurt. Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting hurriedly ran over to support her, and their faces were filled with worries. "Zhiqing, are you okay?" Chen Meiqi was so anxious that her eyes were almost out. She hurriedly took out some herbs from her bag, trying to stop the bleeding. "I can't die yet." Lin Zhiqing smiled reluctantly, held the third piece of stone slab in her hand, and a flash of determination in her eyes. "Zhengxiong, this is just the beginning. One day, I will kill you with my own hands." Yang Wanting looked at her with a complicated look and said in a low voice, "Your strength has taken another step forward, but can you bear this overdraft price? The devil's contract is not something you can play with." "I know." Lin Zhiqing gasped, stood up and wiped off the blood from the corner of her mouth. "But as long as she can take revenge, I will be willing to pay for any price." The three of them supported each other and walked out of the mine. The night wind blew over and took away a smell of blood. Far away, the mines are in a roaring light, as if a sign that a greater storm is coming. But Lin Zhiqing's eyes were more certain than at any time. She knew that the road to revenge was still very long, but every step, she was getting stronger. The fragments of the stone slabs in her hand flickered and darker, as if they were hiding a bigger secret, waiting for her to uncover them. The night was dark, and the cold wind outside the mines made people's faces hurt. Lin Zhiqing leaned against a broken stone, and her body was still carrying the scratches left by fighting Zhengxiong. The blood penetrated her clothes and her body was almost dried up. The third block in my hand predicted that the fragments of the stone slab were radiating faint blue light, as if they could pierce the secrets in my heart. Chen Meiqi sat next to her, holding the broken notebook, drawing runes on the paper with a weak oil lamp, trying to figure out the contents on the stone slab. Yang Wanting stood far away, holding a wooden stick and slapped around vigilantly. Her face was pale, which obviously consumed a lot of energy in the battle on the mine. "Zhiqing, you are too hurt. Let's take a break first." Chen Meiqi raised her head and glanced at her, her voice full of worry, and said that she had turned out a piece of rag from her bag, trying to give her a wound. "It's okay, I can't die." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and slapped this sentence, her voice as if it was broken. Her eyes were staring at the stone slab, her brain was full of Zhengxiong's face, and her family's cry when they were overthrown. The hatred was like a fire, burning in her chest became stronger and stronger, and she felt less pain. "Don't force it." Yang Wanting walked over and said in a low voice, "You just overdrawn too much of the shadow power. If you don't recover, the devil's price will backfire even more. I can feel that your soul waves are already very unstable. Back off?" Lin Zhiqing sneered, with a flash of disdain in her eyes, as long as you can kill Zheng, what is off? I've been ready for it. Yang Wanting snaked her eyebrows and didn't say anything, but there was a little more complex in her eyes. Chen Meiqi lowered her head and continued to work hard, muttering in her mouth, don't argue, I'll explain what's going on. Story? Lin Zhiqing raised her eyebrows and sat upright, tell me clearly, what story? Chen Meiqi bit her lips and quickly wrote a picture on the notebook. After a while, she raised her head. Her face was unusually solemn. I just dug some runes, and mentioned something called Dark Origin, which is said to be the deepest taboo force in the world. It was sealed by ancient witches with a pronounced stone slab several thousand years ago to prevent it from swallowing the entire dark world. However, the stone slab was broken later and the seal became incomplete. The source of darkness has been looking for opportunities to break through and reduce. The origin of darkness. Lin Zhiqing murmured, her heart skipped a beat, and she felt that she couldn't get along with her. There are even more terrifying. Chen Meiqi swallowed, her voice so low that she could hardly hear it. The rune said that the stone fragments are the keys for the seal. After collecting them all, they can completely break the seal and let the source of darkness reappear among the humans. And all this has something to do with the devil. Devil? Lin Zhiqing's heart was shocked, and the cold sound suddenly echoed in the sea of brain. She gritted her teeth and asked in a low voice, why is it related to the devil? Chen Meiqi took a deep breath, as if she had been brave enough to continue saying, the rune mentioned that the demon is the messenger of the source of darkness. She has been looking for people who can collect stone slabs for thousands of years. They will use the contract to confuse people and give strength, but the real purpose is to use the contractor to collect all the fragments and break the seal. Zhiqing. Your contract is likely to be part of this plan. This was like a heavy note, hitting Lin Zhiqing's heart. She was stunned for a few seconds, then she suddenly grabbed Chen Meiqi's shoulder, with a suppressed anger in her voice. Are you saying that I have been giving that bastard demon a pawn? My revenge, my hatred, are all its tools. I'm not sure either. Chen Meiqi shivered by her eyes and hurriedly held her hands. The rune didn't say you directly, but she mentioned the holder of the power of shadow, saying that this is the person chosen by the devil, and will be guided step by step, becoming the key to breaking the seal. I just guess. I guess it's two. Lin Zhiqing stood up suddenly, and her face turned pale when she hurt her mouth, but she gritted her teeth and held back. In the brain, the devil's voice suddenly rose, and he mocked her, little girl, don't listen to this little girl's nonsense. I'll help you get revenge and give you strength. Isn't it what you want? What else is there, don't you? Close your mouth. Lin Zhiqing growled, her fists clenched and her fists were clamoring. She turned her head and looked at Chen Meiqi, her eyes chaotic like a group of irritating, what else? Let's say it all. Chen Meiqi hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, the rune finally mentioned that if the seal is broken, the source of darkness will swallow the entire continent and all life will be destroyed. Zhiqing, if you continue to collect stone slabs, it may harm everyone. This sentence is like a thunder, directly slashing Lin Zhiqing's brain blank. She stood there, the wind blew over her face, bringing a biting chill. Revenge is the only support she has survived, and it is the reason why she gritted her teeth and fought against life and death. But now, Chen Meiqi's words are like a knife, cutting her beliefs bloodily. Continuing revenge may destroy the entire world. How can she deserve her dead family if she gives up revenge? Zhiqing, what's wrong with you? Chen Meiqi asked carefully. Seeing her face look like she was about to collapse, she was busy filling her mouth. I'm not saying that you're giving up on revenge, but we just have to think about it, and there's still a different way. Are there any other way? Lin Zhiqing sneered, his voice full of bitterness. Tell me, what else is there? My family is gone, and my life is changed with the devil. If you don't take revenge, what's the point of living? But if it's really like you said, it will destroy everyone. Before she finished speaking, her fist hit the stone beside her, and blood flowed down her fingers, which made her bit her teeth tightly. Yang Wanting left at this time, her voice was low. I said before that the stone slab is a thing of burning hands. Your choice is not just your fate. My prediction shows that once the source of darkness is released, the door of deep and purity will be opened, and no one will be spared. Then what should I do? Lin Zhiqing turned her head suddenly, her eyes filled with prickling and anger. Give up. Let that bastard Jing Xiong continue to be free. Or should she say, hand over the stone slab to him and let him destroy the world? I don't know. Yang Wanting shook her head, her eyes flashing helplessly, but I can tell you that Jing Xiong is already moving. I just felt a strong wave of forbidden magic coming from the northeast. He probably knew that you had taken the third stone slab and was now carrying people over, and he wanted to take away all the debris. Jing Xiong. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and hatred once again thrust in her heart. She lowered her head and looked at the stone slabs in her hand, with a ruthless look in her eyes. No matter what source of darkness he is, what kind of fate in the world. If Jing Xiong is not dead, I will never give up. At worst, after killing him, I will destroy these stone slabs. Zhiqing, you. Chen Meiqi still wanted to fight, but Lin Zhiqing glared at her fiercely and blocked her words. Don't waste your time, be ready to fight. Lin Zhiqing shouted softly, and the power of the shadow in her body began to stir. Although she was not injured, her aura was stronger than ever. If Jing Xiong dared to come, I would let him come without a return. Yang Wanting clicked her head a little, and said nothing more. As soon as the wooden stick was blown, a faint light curtain spread around her, and she reluctantly recovered a little protection. Chen Meiqi gritted her teeth, took out the last few rune papers from her bag, and muttered in her mouth, okay, let's fight. At worst, we can do it together. The three of them quickly found a higher ruin as a defense point and prepared to welcome the coming storm. It took no time for a rapid sound of footsteps in the darkness far away, accompanied by a low roar and a metal collision. Lin Zhiqing narrowed her eyes and saw a team of black armored troops approaching the minefield. There were hundreds of people, and it was Jing Xiong who was headed. He was wearing a long blood-red robe, holding a bone staff, and his face was filled with a smile, as if he had already won the coupon. Oh, little man, you run very fast. Jing Xiong's voice came far away, carrying no excuses, but today, I want all the stone slabs and your life. Brothers, give me, who killed her, will you earn 10 times the money. Kill! Hundreds of black-armored soldiers roared angrily, and the swordlight lit up instantly, like a black torrent, swaying towards the ruins where the three of them were hiding. At the same time, more than 10 black-robed witches behind Jing Xiong began to chant the spell in a low voice, and a heavy taboo magic breath filled the air. The ground cracked, and the black air touched out like a snake, and the attack was so fierce that it suffocated. Come on! Lin Zhiqing roared angrily, and the power of the shadow in her body exploded instantly, and the figure turned into a black smoke and directly rushed into the enemy. Her short sword was wrapped in black air, like the dead sword of the god of death. Every knife took a life, and the blood was sprayed, and the cry came one after another. Although the injury was not damaged, hatred made her power surge, so fast that she could hardly see clearly, and she killed a bloody path in the black-armored army. Zhiqing, don't be too far. Chen Meiqi shouted, and the rune paper in her hand was blown out, and a white light burst out, exploding several approaching black-armored soldiers. Yang Wanting gritted her teeth and lifted up a light curtain, slamming the magic attack of the witches. The wooden stick moved, and the white light turned into a sharp blade, and she retreated a few black touches, but her face became whiter and whiter, and it was obviously almost as fast as possible. A little trick to carve a slut. Jing Xiong sneered, and a red column of blood rays slapped Lin Zhiqing, with its power so strong that its air was torn apart, and it produced a sharp bird. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth, and the shadow jumped under her feet, and she was reluctantly teleporting and hiding, but the light column still wiped her arm, and her skin seemed to be burned, which made her hummed in pain. With this ability, how dare you challenge me? Jing Xiong grinned, his bone staff slammed, and several bloody red lights fell like rain. At the same time, the black touching hands poured out from the ground, like countless poisonous snakes, surrounding Lin Zhiqing's group. Although her figure was flexible, there were too many enemies. After several avoidances, there were a few more scratches on her body, and blood dripped down her arms, dyeing the ground. "Zhiqing, hold it!" Chen Meiqi shouted anxiously, and the last rune paper in her hand was blown out, bursting out a white light, and she reluctantly gained a little breathing space for her. Yang Wanting sniffed softly, and the wooden stick penetrated into the ground. A circle of strong white light burst out, shocking the black-armored soldiers around her, but she also stumbled for a moment due to exhaustion, and blood was overflowing from the corners of her mouth. "Humph, dying and thrust." Zheng Xiong snorted coldly, with a flash of murder in his eyes. "Little man, hand over the stone slab, I can still make you die happily. Otherwise, I will make you regret living. Be a dream." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and cut, with an unyielding fire in her eyes. In the brain, the devil's voice sounded again, and he was confused. "Little girl, be careful and let me help you. You don't want to die here, do you? Don't want to make your enemies laugh the last time, do you? Close your mouth. I don't need you." Lin Zhiqing growled, suppressing the devil's infatuation. She knew that once she accepted its power again, the price might be too big for her to bear. The two difficulties of hatred and saving the world were in her heart, but for now, she could only survive first to have the opportunity to choose. Looking for death. Zheng Xiong roared, with a finger of the bone staff, and a stronger red light beam of blood swept Lin Zhiqing. At the same time, dozens of black contacts came from all directions, almost blocking all her retreat. Lin Zhiqing bit her teeth tightly, and the power of the shadow exploded around her. The shadow turned into countless sharp blades, tearing a few touching hands apart, but the light column still hit her shoulder hard, causing her to kneel on the ground half kneeling, and blood was storming. "Zhiqing!" Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting shouted at the same time, wanting to come and help, but the magic attack of the wizard and the blockage of the black-armored soldiers made them unable to get close. Seeing that Zheng Xiong lifted his bone staff again, he was ready to hit Lin Zhiqing with a fatal blow, and both of them looked as white as paper. "Go to die." Zheng Xiong grinned, his eyes filled with slights, and the red blood light condensed at the top of the bone staff, as if he could tear everything apart. Just as the thousand-headed hare was around, Yang Wanting suddenly gritted her teeth and roared, "Fight!" She suddenly inserted the wooden stick into the ground, and her whole body's strength gathered into a dazzling white light, forcing her to break through the magical boundary of the witches and straightening her. Although the white light could not hurt him, it successfully interrupted his attack and gave Lin Zhiqing a breathing time. "It's so bad." Zheng Xiong shouted angrily, turned his head and yelled at the wizard, "Slay that witch first." The wizard immediately adjusted the direction of the attack, and several taboo magic tricks rushed Yang Wanting. Her light curtain was shattered in an instant, and the whole person was shaken and fell heavily to the ground. Blood flowed from the corners of her mouth, which seemed to be very harsh. Chen Meiqi was so anxious that she wanted to rush over, but she was surrounded by black-armored soldiers, and even self-protection became a problem. Lin Zhiqing looked at this scene and felt like she was being torn open by something. Hate and responsibility fought in her brain, and she was almost breathless. But when she saw Zheng Xiong's proud face and heard his mocking smile, all the watches were instantly burned with anger. "Zheng Xiong!" She growled, and the power of the shadow inside her body was like a ignited explosive medicine, surging violently. Although she refused to end the devil's direct help, hatred allowed her power to break through the limit. Her eyes turned pure black, and her figure turned into a black light, swaying Zheng Xiong, and her short sword wrapped in a thick black air, as if she could swallow everything. "What?" Zheng Xiong's pupils shrank, and he didn't expect Lin Zhiqing to have such a move. His bone staff was shattered, and the blood-red barrier was slapped in front of him, but the barrier kept cracking under her attack. After several rounds, he was forced to take a few steps back, his face so dark that it could drip. "Brothers, give it to me." Zheng Xiong roared, and hundreds of black-armored soldiers and wizards attacked again, but Lin Zhiqing seemed to be completely unconscious of life and death, and forced her to take the attack, pointing her short sword straight into Zheng Xiong's chest. Every attack of her was determined to die, and the blood continued to increase on her body, but her vigor became stronger and stronger. Roll! She roared angrily, and the shadow exploded around her, turning into countless spikes, tearing the black-armored soldiers around her apart, and the blood was filled with mist. Zheng Xiong gritted his teeth, and a blood-red pillar of light hit him again, but Lin Zhiqing's figure flashed and teleported and dodged. The short knife stabbed into his shoulder hard, causing blood to spray. Ah! Zheng Xiong hummed in pain, and a hint of jealousy flashed in his eyes. Little man, do you really think you can win me? Will you know if you win or not? Lin Zhiqing sneered, and the internal strength surged again. The short sword successively planned several black lights, forcing Zheng Xiong to retreat. His black-armored army and wizards were also shocked by her aura, and the attacks were obviously slowed down. At this moment, Yang Wanting stood up and said to Chen Meiqi in a low voice, "With now, my prediction saw a way out. There is a gap in the southeast. Take Zhiqing away." Chen Meiqi pointed, gritted her teeth and rushed to Lin Zhiqing's body, shouting, "Zhiqing, it's over. We have to run away. If we fight hard, everyone will die." Lin Zhiqing panted heavily, staring at Zheng Xiong with her eyes tightly, wishing she could kill him now. But she knew that Chen Meiqi was right. Now she had reached the limit, and if she continued to fight, she would only be defeated by the entire army. She clenched her teeth and said in a low voice, "Okay, go." The three of them helped each other and rushed towards the southeast. Zheng Xiong wanted to chase, but Lin Zhiqing turned his head and the black air turned into a sharp blade, forcing his attack back. Although there are many black-armored soldiers, their military service is already in vain and they cannot hold 3 people. The 3 of them stumbled out of the encirclement circle and disappeared into the night. Zheng Xiong stood there, covering the wound on his shoulders, his face darkened like the sky before the rain. He gritted his teeth and growled, "Little man, I have remembered this account. Next time, I will make you live and die." The night wind blew over and took away a smell of blood. Lin Zhiqing and the other 2 fled to a hidden cave and finally stopped. They were covered in scars and had almost exhausted their physical strength, but at least, they survived. Lin Zhiqing leaned against the cave wall, gasping for a long time, and holding 3 pieces of stone slabs in her hand. Her eyes were as complicated as a group of irritating, and the flames of revenge and the responsibility of saving the world were tearing her into her heart, causing her to almost suffocate. But she knew that no matter what she chose, Zheng Xiong would die. In this battle, she rekindled Zheng Xiong's strength, but the real battle was still at the back. Far away, the night was about to growl, as if a bigger storm was about to come. The night was as thick as incomplete ink, and in the deep rift valley in the deepest part of the dark forest, the wind was roaring like countless resentful spirits. In the middle of the rift, a huge black stone sacrificial fortress stands, filled with red runes, radiating a heart-wrenching taboo breath. At the top of the sacrificial forum, 3 pieces of stone slab fragments were held tightly by Lin Zhiqing in his hand. The blue light was dazzling, as if it could tear apart the night sky. Beside her, Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting stood. Although the 2 were covered in scars, their eyes were full of determination. After months of chasing and killing, they finally collected all the stone fragments, and tonight was the final battle with Zheng Xiong and the time to decide the fate of the world. "Zhiqing, are you sure you want to do this?" Chen Meiqi's voice shook slightly, holding the old notebook in her hand, her face as white as paper. "The rune is very clear that the fusion of the power of the stone slab will completely awaken the source of darkness, and may even make you backfire. Are we really no other way?" "No." Lin Zhiqing replied coldly, her eyes as if they were steel, without any hesitation. "Zheng Xiong is about to open the door of deep and purity. If I don't merge with the stone slab, we will never have the last chance. Don't worry, I won't let that bastard demon succeed, nor will the world be destroyed by the dark origin." Yang Wanting stood aside, covered with black sluts on her face, and a faint white light radiated from the wooden stick in her hand. She said in a low voice, "My prediction shows that tonight's battle will decide everything. After you merge with the stone slab, your strength will reach unprecedented heights, but the devil's contract price will also storm, and may even swallow your will. Zhiqing, are you ready?" Preparation. I have never planned to go back alive since the day I signed the contract. Lin Zhiqing sneered at the corner of her mouth, and a flame of hatred was burning in her eyes. I will not stop if Zheng Xiong is not dead. If the world is destroyed, I will kill him first. Chen Meiqi bit her lip and didn't do it anymore, but said in a low voice, "Then we will accompany you. I have finished reading the runes. I will read the spell that merges the stone slabs and I will help you recite. When it comes to key points, don't worry about us and focus on dealing with Zheng Xiong." Lin Zhiqing clicked the head and stopped talking. She took a deep breath and lifted the 3 pieces of stone slabs high. The blue light instantly stormed, like 3 groups of flames burning in the night sky. Chen Meiqi quickly turned the notebook and recited a string of ancient spells in a low voice. A strange wave spread in the air. The runes lit up on the sacrificial forum, as if they were alive, slowly moving. Fused. Lin Zhiqing growled, and the shadow power in her body was like a ignited explosive medicine, storming out, intertwining with the blue light of the stone slab. Her body seemed to be torn, and the pain made her almost kneel, but she bit her teeth tightly and held her back. The blue light gradually gathered into a huge ball of light, which suddenly dripped into her chest. In an instant, her body emitted a thick black air, her eyes turned pure black, and the shadow twisted into countless sharp blades under her feet, making her breath suffocating. "It's done!" Chen Meiqi yelled in surprise, but the next second, her face changed, because Lin Zhiqing's body began to shake uncontrollably, and the black air seemed to be out of control, and she was shaking everywhere. In the brain, the devil's voice sounded, carrying endless ecstasy, "Little girl, fucked beautifully. The source of darkness is finally awakened, and the gate of deep and purity is about to open. You are my perfect chess piece. Close your mouth." Lin Zhiqing roared, exerting the sound in the sea of brains. Although the power in her body surged, her will was also fiercely fighting against the devil's invasion. She gasped and said in a low voice, "I won't let you succeed. Revenge is my business, but the world, I won't let it be destroyed in your hands." At this moment, a deep laugh came from the depths of the rift, accompanied by rapid steps and metal collisions. Far away, Zheng Xiong appeared with hundreds of black-armored troops and a group of black-robed wizards. He was wearing a long blood-red robe and holding a bone staff. His face was filled with a smile, as if he was already in a coupon. "Oh, little man, your life is so strong." Zheng Xiong's voice came far away, with no disgust. "I thought you had died halfway through the road, but I didn't expect you to have really shredded the stone slab. But it's okay, today, I want all the stone slabs and your life." "Zheng Xiong." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and lit up her eyes. The family's overturned screen flashed in her brain, and hatred made her power surge again. She said coldly, "Today is your death. I want to let you kill my family. Do you die? I'll kill you." Zheng Xiong grinned, his bone staff slapped, and a heavy taboo magic breath filled the air. The ground cracked and countless gaps. The black air touching hands burst out like a snake and rushed towards the 3 of them. "Brothers, give it to me. Kill her, you will earn 100 times the amount of money. Kill!" Hundreds of black-armored soldiers roared angrily, and the sword light lit up instantly, like a black torrent, rushing towards the fort. The wizard also chanted the spell in a low voice, and several blood-red beams slapped Lin Zhiqing, and his attack was so fierce that it was suffocating. "Roll!" Lin Zhiqing growled, and the power of the shadow origin in her body exploded instantly, and the figure turned into a black light and directly rushed into the enemy. Her short sword wrapped in a thick black air, like the sword of the god of death. Each knife brought a bloody fog. 10 black-armored soldiers were instantly torn to pieces, and their screams came one after another. Her speed was so fast that she could hardly see it clearly. The shadow turned into countless sharp blades around her, killing a bloody path among the enemy. What? Zheng Xiong's pupils shrank, and he didn't expect that Lin Zhiqing's strength would be so strong. He roared angrily, his bone staff slammed, and several red blood beams of light hit like rain. At the same time, the black touching hands poured out from the ground, trying to trap Lin Zhiqing. But her figure looked like a ghost, teleporting easily, avoiding all attacks. With a backhand, the black air turned into a huge wave, directly swallowing dozens of wizards, flying flesh and blood. Zhiqing, be careful behind. Chen Meiqi shouted, and the rune paper in her hand was blown out, and a white light burst out, and several black-armored soldiers who were trying to steal the picture were flying. Yang Wanting gritted her teeth and lifted up a light curtain, slammed the magic attack of the witches, and the wooden stick moved, and the white light turned into a sharp blade, knocking away a few black touchers to give Lin Zhiqing more space. A trick to carve a slut. Zheng Xiong snorted coldly, with a flash of jealousy in his eyes, but he immediately grinned and pointed a finger at the bone staff. The runes around the sacrificial fortress suddenly lit up, and the ground shook violently, and a huge blood-red magic spell condensed in the air, as if it could tear the space apart. Little man, this is the last blow I have prepared for you. Forbidden magic, blood purity descends. Go to death. In the magical aura, a blood-red pillar of light rushed Lin Zhiqing, so powerful that the air was torn apart, and a sharp bird appeared. Lin Zhiqing sneered, and the power of the shadow in her body violently broke out. The shadow formed a huge black barrier around her, slamming the light column. Although there were cracks on the barrier, she had no hair. That's it. Lin Zhiqing looked at Zheng Xiong mockingly, and her figure flashed and teleported directly in front of him. The short knife wrapped in black air and stabbed him hard in the chest. Zheng Xiong reacted very quickly. When the bone staff was slammed, the blood-red barrier was slammed in front of him, but the barrier was instantly shattered under her attack, and the tip of the knife still broke his shoulder, causing blood to leak. Ah! Zheng Xiong hummed in pain, his eyes full of disbelief. How is it possible? How can your power be so strong? Strong? This is just the beginning. Lin Zhiqing's eyes were filled with a fire of hatred. The short sword continuously drew several black lights, which were so fast that it was almost impossible to see clearly. Each hit was terrifyingly accurate. There were a few deep bone-like wounds on Zheng Xiong's body, and blood was flowing. He tried to reverse the picture, but Lin Zhiqing's image was completely unrestricted by physics. The shadow jumped into the trap, and all magic attacks were lost. Brothers, give it to me. Zheng Xiong roared, and hundreds of black-armored soldiers and the remaining wizards attacked again, but Lin Zhiqing just snorted coldly, and the shadow exploded around her, turning into a black storm, instantly swallowing all the enemies. The blood and sarcasm were almost crushed in the blink of an eye, and there was no chance to resist. Zheng Xiong, your legs are over, now you are here. Lin Zhiqing said coldly, and her figure turned into a black light, swaying Zheng Xiong. Her short knife wrapped in a thick black air, as if it could swallow everything. Zheng Xiong gritted his teeth and slapped his bone staff. He tried to use the last taboo magic to counterattack, but his attack was like paper in front of Lin Zhiqing, easily torn apart. Impossible! Zheng Xiong roared, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes, but Lin Zhiqing did not give him any chance to breathe. She stabbed his chest hard and stormed in blood. Zheng Xiong's body stiffened a little, his eyes were so slight and he was full of reluctance. This knife is for my family. Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and roared, and twisted the knife. Zheng Xiong let out an unwilling cry, then fell heavily, and no breath. Lin Zhiqing pulled out the short knife and blood dripped on the ground. She gasped and looked at Zheng Xiong's body. The hatred in her heart was finally released. Revenge is finally completed at this moment. Zhiqing, I'm winning. Chen Meiqi ran over, her face full of excitement, and her eyes almost fell off. Yang Wanting also left. Although she was covered in scars, her eyes were filled with relief. you did it, Zheng Xiong was dead, and his jealousy ended here. But Lin Zhiqing didn't smile, but her face became even more solemn. The power of the shadow origin in the body began to boil uncontrollably. In the brain, the devil's voice sounded again, and he laughed wildly. Little girl, is it really good to revenge? Now, I should complete my plan. The source of darkness has been completely awakened, and the gate of deep purity is about to open. You are my perfect piece, ha ha ha. Close your mouth. Lin Zhiqing roared, and the black air in her body suddenly burst out, as if it was out of control. The ground deep in the rift began to shake violently, and a huge black light column rose into the sky, as if some kind of taboo force was released. Chen Meiqi's face turned pale and she exclaimed in surprise, "No, the origin of darkness. It was really awakened." Yang Wanting gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, "My prediction shows that the gate of deep and purity is opening at the bottom of the rift. If not stopped, the source of darkness will swallow the entire mainland. Zhiqing, you must make a choice. Choose." Lin Zhiqing gritted her teeth and flashed countless pictures in her brain: the family's overthrow, the determination to revenge, and the company of Chen Meiqi and Yang Wanting along the way. She knew that if the source of darkness was allowed to be released, the world would be destroyed in the end, but if she wanted to seal it, she might have to pay the price of her life and even be completely swallowed by the devil. "Zhiqing, don't hesitate." Chen Meiqi shouted anxiously, her voice trembling, "Didn't you say that you are willing to pay no matter what the price you make? We believe you, you will definitely do it." Lin Zhiqing took a deep breath, and a desperate flashed in her eyes. She turned to the two and said, "Be prepared, I want to seal the source of darkness. You help me to hold back the devil's invasion and fight for time." "I understand." Yang Wanting pointed her head, slapped her wooden stick, and a white light covered Lin Zhiqing, trying to reduce the devil's invasion of her will. Chen Meiqi quickly drew a few protection runes and dropped them on the ground, forming a weak boundary. Although it could not be completely blocked, it could at least take a little time. Lin Zhiqing closed her eyes, and the power of the shadow origin in her body was forced to be controlled by her, and she turned and led to the runes on the sacrificial priest. Her body seemed to be torn, and the pain almost broke down, but she bit her teeth and growled, "The origin of darkness, let me go back. I'm not whose pawn." The runes on the fort suddenly lit up, and the blue light and the black air intertwined, as if forming a huge seal. The black light column at the bottom of the rift began to tremble violently, as if it was being pulled by some force. The devil's voice roared in the brain, "Little man, how dare you betray me? You will pay the price." "Price? I've paid for it long ago." Lin Zhiqing roared, her willpower was like a steel wire, and she forced the devil's invasion. Her body emitted dazzling black light, and the power of the seal became stronger and stronger. The black light column was slightly pressed back to the bottom of the rift, and the deep and purified door roared unwillingly, and was finally closed at the last moment. "It's done." Chen Meiqi shouted in surprise, but the next second, Lin Zhiqing's body suddenly became furious, and the dark air dissipated from her body. Her whole body seemed to be hollowed out, kneeling heavily on the ground, with blood flowing from the corners of her mouth. "Zhiqing!" Yang Wanting and Chen Meiqi hurriedly ran over to support her, and their faces were filled with worries. Lin Zhiqing smiled reluctantly, and said with a voice, "Don't panic, I can't die yet. The source of darkness is sealed, and the devil's contract is also closed." "Stopped." Chen Meiqi was stunned, and a flash of light flashed in her eyes. "You really did it. Zhiqing, you saved everyone." Yang Wanting looked at Rift with her head low, her eyes filled with relief. "My prediction shows that the threat of the source of darkness has disappeared, and the fate of the world has been modified. Zhiqing, you not only completed your revenge, but also became a real savior." Lin Zhiqing panted heavily and leaned against the two people, looking at the night sky, and finally a slight smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The flame of revenge was extinguished in her heart, and replaced by an unprecedented relaxation. She said in a low voice, "Savior. It sounds good. But I want to be an ordinary person and spend a few days of peace and stability. Still peace. Then we have to wait for us to rebuild this mainland. Chen Meiqi wiped her eyes and grinned. Zhiqing, let's do something big together in the future. Turn the dark mainland into a place where we can live well. Agree. Yang Wanting pointed, a light of hope flashed in her eyes. The dark era is over, and the new era should be opened by us. Lin Zhiqing looked at the two of them, and a little bit of her head, and a warm feeling surged in her heart. Although the road to revenge is over, the road ahead is still very long. But this time, she is no longer alone. A few months later, a new city rose up in the center of the dark mainland, the ruins were cleared, and the sun was shining on the once bloody land. Lin Zhiqing stood on the city wall, wearing a simple long robe and a short knife around her waist. Her eyes were no longer as cold as before, but a little gentle. Chen Meiqi was busy recording the research results of the new runes beside her, muttering, Zhiqing, do you think we are considered heroes in the past? Hero? Stop being rude. Lin Zhiqing rolled her eyes, and couldn't help but sneer at the corner of her mouth. I'm just an ordinary person who has taken revenge, and now I want to live a good life. Yang Wanting walked over, holding a map in her hand, and said with a light smile, ordinary people cannot change the fate of the world. Zhiqing, your story has spread all over the world. Let's walk together in the future. Lin Zhiqing pointed at the horizon and looked at the distance, and the shadows in her heart dissipated. The hatred and pain of the past turned into clouds, and a new era opened in their hands. She knew that no matter what challenges she had in the future, she would not be afraid anymore. Because she is Lin Zhiqing, a revenge girl, and it is also a saying that saves the world. The story of Dark Land has opened a brand new page from this moment.